The House Committee on Appropriations will come to order. Will the clerk please take attendance?
Chair Whitworth.
Here.
Representatives O'Neill.
Present.
Brixey. Hood. Braybeck. Morse. Purry. Steckloff. Weiss. Martis. McKinney.
Here.
Menser. Morgan. Price. Skaggs. Snyder. Wilson. Leitner.
Here.
Bolin. Green. Slaw. Beeson. Orton. Fink. Cavett.
Here.
DeBoer. Here. Kuhn.
Here.
Schutte. Steele. Madam Chair, you have 24 members present. You do have a quorum.
Thank you. Representative O'Neill moves to approve the minutes from our June 20th meeting. There being no objection, the minutes are approved. Representative Leitner moves to excuse absent members. Without objection, the absent members will be excused from today's meeting. We have a pretty full agenda for today's committee, so we'll try to work through these items as quickly as possible. We'll start by hearing testimony on the pending transfer on our agenda, Legislative Transfer Request 2024-10 that was approved by the MSF in July. This request is for $120 million to transfer to the Critical Industry Program to support a grant to Dow to modernize its Michigan operations in the city of Midland and in Williams Charter Township. These modernization efforts include infrastructure improvements, building renovations, new building construction, and manufacturing capacity expansion. Here with us today from Dow to provide more detail about the project are Jeff Stoutenberg, Director of State Government Affairs, Paul Barbo, Senior Global Director of Corporate Facilities, Shannon Huber, Lead Site Manufacturing Director. Joining them from MEDC, we have Senior Vice President of Business Development Programs, Kristen Armstrong, who can add context from the department side and answer any process questions. I'll ask members to hold questions until the end of their presentation. Thank you all for being here. Go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jeff Stoutenberg. We appreciate the introduction and the opportunity to be here with you, especially with such a full agenda on today's committee calendar. You did the introductions for me, so I'll skip that piece. I would say I'm very pleased to be joined by two of my Dow colleagues here today. As many of you know, Dow's been a Michigan-based company for all 127 years of our history. We were founded in Midland in 1897, and the company still has very deep roots here in the state of Michigan. Midland and the surrounding Great Lakes Bay region is home to our global corporate headquarters. More than 1/3 of our global R&D operations. It's the central campus for what we call core R&D, which we've discussed with many of you. It's home to our Michigan Operations Industrial Park and the affiliated or associated silicones manufacturing sites. At the end of the day, the company's strategy is guided by our ambition, which is to be the most innovative, customer-centric, inclusive, and sustainable material sciences company in the world. The project before you is intended to advance that ambition by achieving three key outcomes that the chair just described. Modernizing our R&D facilities, expanding our silicones manufacturing sites in Midland and in Williams Township in Bay County, and upgrading infrastructure at our Michigan Operations Industrial Park that supports both Dow's operations and those of our current and any future tenants. And I would just say, Shannon will speak to this more directly, that's a really key piece of the growth strategy for the iPark. In support of the investment, the reason we're all here, as you know, is the Strategic Fund approved an incentive package in July that includes a performance-based grant from the Critical Industry Program. In order to be eligible and to remain eligible, Dow has to do three things. Invest at least $785 million by 2032, terminate our mega tax credit, and retain at least 5,000 jobs through 2032. These are high-wage, high-skilled jobs, as many of you know. The median wage for these jobs is more than $100,000 a year. That's more than 2 times both the regional and statewide median wage. And as you would expect for a Fortune 100 company, these jobs provide comprehensive benefits that support families in our region and across the state. In addition to what you would expect, healthcare, retirement savings, incentive compensation, they also provide benefits that are talent, and it's becoming increasingly important to recruit and sustain talent. Paid family medical leave, child care support, caregiver support, educational support, the things that we need to compete in the global talent. While we're proud of our Michigan heritage, we're also a global company, as you know. We have manufacturing and R&D and operations in over 30 countries, and we serve customers in more than 130 countries. And in choosing to make this investment here in Michigan, the company evaluated several alternatively competitive locations for the project in Texas, Louisiana, Pennsylvania, at various sites in Europe and in Asia. These are competitive projects, as you can imagine, and several of these sites have very strong business cases based on a combination of factors: available capacity to expand existing facilities, the age and efficiency of those assets, the competitive advantage of being co-located at or near another large manufacturing hub, and just overall operating costs. The economics of investing in Midland and in Michigan are challenging. We've been, I think, very candid with you all about that. But what these sites outside of Michigan don't have, it'll sound obvious as when I say it, the sites aren't in Michigan. Michigan is our home, and these are investments that we want to make here. And we're very confident that with support from the MEDC, support we receive from our local community partners, and hopefully from the legislature, we're confident we can deliver these investments here in Michigan. So I'm going to stop talking because you've all heard me talk too much even prior to today, but I'll turn it over to Paul Barbeau, who's going to, I didn't even click through any of the slides. Yeah. This is, okay, this is not seamless. I'm going to jump to this, and then I'll click through the slides. I'll be better about this. I apologize for that. Go ahead, Paul.
Great. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. As Jeff mentioned, Midland is home to 1/3 of Dow's global research and development capability, including our core R&D campus, which sits at the center.
Can you turn your mic on, please?
Sorry. Thanks, Jeff. Midland, as Jeff mentioned, Midland is home to 1/3 of Dow's global R&D capability, including our core R&D campus, which sits at the center of our global research organization. Dow R&D is the best in the industry and attracts the finest researchers from around the world to work on cutting-edge technologies to address some of society's biggest challenges. This includes the execution of high-throughput chemistry, which refers to our world-leading ability to replicate experiments quickly. This work is not just innovation for innovation's sake, it produces results. As an example, just a few months ago, research scientists from Dow developed a novel architecture for polyethylene, a common material used in packaging. The discovery and the application has the potential to reduce carbon emissions where industry-scale production of polyethylene takes place. While we have R&D facilities across the country and around the world, Michigan historically has been the home base of our R&D capabilities and serves as a catalyst for our global strength, thus making investment in Midland vital to Dow's long-term sustainability and growth. On the next slide, the plan for the R&D investments proposes both new building construction and renovations to existing facilities to improve reliability, efficiency, and operational performance at aging facilities that currently experience business continuity issues. This investment will allow Dow R&D to continue delivering safer and more sustainable products to our customers worldwide, all with innovation from our Midland location. Additionally, we expect the project to reduce Dow's energy usage on our R&D campus by approximately 30% and improve safety and reliability of the facilities. The other two investment areas in the project are focused on Midland's Industrial Park and Dow Performance Silicones manufacturing. So for that, I'll turn it over to my colleague Shannon Huber, who is the lead site manufacturing director at Michigan Operations.
Thank you, Paul, and let me echo Dow's gratitude to the committee members for your consideration today for this incredibly important project. So in addition to being home of our core R&D, Midland is also home to Dow's Michigan Operations Industrial Park. It's a 2,600-acre complex that's home to Dow silicone manufacturing site, plus the operation of 6 other manufacturing tenant companies which have their own choice in where to invest. You may not be aware that Dow silicone manufacturing in Midland is the largest, most integrated, and complex silicone manufacturing site in the world. The silicones materials produced in Midland are leveraged across more than 50% of our Dow's global consumer solutions business and support more than 4,300 customer locations with nearly 300 unique product offerings. These silicones end up primarily in consumer products such as household, medical, and electronic products, and materials for vehicles and their components, just to name a few. For Dow to continue serving its customers and innovation partners, we need to modernize our facilities and infrastructure. For the iPark, this means modernizing aging water and sewer systems, among other infrastructure improvements. Collectively, the modernization facilities will offer more opportunities for collaboration and innovation of tenants and enable Dow to attract new businesses to the iPark complex. For our silicones manufacturing, our planned investments include process equipment to support the expanded production of silicone foams, gels, and coatings, among other products. This will improve reliability, efficiency, and sustainability, and ensure we remain competitive. These investments cement Dow's place in the region and state and position us for long-term growth in Michigan. So with that, I'll pass the torch back to Jeff now to talk about the terms of the CIP agreement.
I promise I'll do better at clicking through the slides. That was not what I was paranoid about when I woke up this morning, was doing that, so I apologize again. So you all have the term sheet in front of you. It was included in the packet provided by the MEDC. I won't take you through all of the pieces of it. I would just offer a couple of thoughts. If you take away only two things about the agreement and the term sheet, I hope it's this. The agreement is transparent and it's performance-based, which we've heard from the legislature time and again are very important pieces. A couple of things that I would highlight for you that are in the term sheet. All of the investments under consideration here are being made or proposed to be made by Dow. There are no other companies involved in the project. The agreement contains all of the clawback and repayment provisions, at least that we would expect to be in there for several different scenarios, including failure to meet the jobs requirement or the investment requirements. You can see there are other provisions on the slides that trigger repayment. And I think in the name of transparency, it was important to us from the beginning of this process that it was transparent. No legislators, legislative staff were asked to sign non-disclosure agreements to receive all the details about the project. What you have in front of you are the merits of the project, and we asked you to consider those merits. The other piece of the project, or part of the incentive agreement, was the agreement between Dow and the MEDC to voluntarily terminate the remaining value of our mega tax credit. Dow was issued this tax credit in 2010. We have about $20 million or so left on this credit. We agreed to do it. We agreed to terminate the tax credit for one simple reason. When we step back and look at what we want our Michigan footprint to look like, this comprehensive view of what we want to be and how we get there, MEGA is an important tool for a lot of reasons. MEGA does not help us deliver on this investment, and this investment is critical to our Michigan operations going into the future. We believe it's in the best interest of the company and the state. In the context of the project, will best position us to deliver on our commitments here. Before I turn it over to Kristen, which I'm going to do very quickly, I just want to leave you with one final thought, and we'll answer questions. Throughout the decades, Dow leaders have continually searched for better products, better ways to make those products, and a better understanding of the science about what makes it all possible. And we're confident that with your support here this morning or in the future, we can ensure that Michigan remains at the center of that journey. So, Madam Chair, thank you for the time this morning. Kristen, we'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Jeff. Good morning, everyone. From the MEDC's perspective, this is a really important project. It retains a very critical employer in the state of Michigan and secures significant investment in a homegrown company. One of our objectives is certainly to protect and grow the companies that are here. As I can tell you, we are in constant competition with other states and countries for our companies. The jobs being retained here are very high paying. As Jeff noted, I believe the median wage here is about $100,000 on these positions. The R&D work and the manufacturing and activities are really critically important as well to some other key industries in the state of Michigan, including battery, EV, clean energy, semiconductors, and electronics. These are activities we want to maintain here as we continue to build out and strengthen our various supply chains. As Jeff noted, the agreement is performance-based and ensures that the state maintains control over the full flow of funds at all times. The company must invest before the state disperses funds. We audit that investment before anything is released, and it's a very thorough audit. It's very, very vigorous. The jobs and investment commitments are memorialized within the agreement. They have to be met. Those are subject to audit and verification as well. If those commitments are not satisfied, the company is obligated by the agreement to repay. That's not something that can be cured. That is a straight up term of the condition. Repayment will be required if either of those is not satisfied. In addition, the agreement includes other provisions that allows the state to suspend disbursements upon the occurrence of other events of default that could occur, many of which are outlined in your term sheet. So again, I think, as Jeff mentioned, the things I think you need to make sure, we want you to take away from this is it's performance-based. The state maintains control of the disbursement of funds here at all times. And we'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, we do have a couple of questions. Representative Bolin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much for being here. I have a question for Dow and also for MEDC. So this one to Dow, thank you very much for your investment. It's great to support Michigan-grown companies. You have a long history here. But I do find that this project is somewhat peculiar in that it is a global company generally prepares for future capital investments. It says in the literature here in the information that there's existing capacity elsewhere. It's retention of jobs, it's not new jobs. Retention is extremely important, but the period of the promise of retention is less than 10 years. And that is very concerning. You know, particularly with the economy as such, it's very unpredictable. But what are we to rely on as appropriators that we won't end up being the site of Dow's global company that has the extra capacity? Most of all, it has an impact on the local infrastructure investment. When you build and increase the capacity of a treatment plant of any sort and the lines, there still is a maintenance cost for that. So what promise do we have in the protection and why is it a retention in just for such a short period of time?
I think what we would ask you, thank you for your question, Representative. It's a fair question. So, can you hear me? You cannot hear me? Sorry. Is that better? Yeah, can you hear me now? Hear me now? Okay, good. It's like a bad 90s commercial. I think the retention piece is important. So when we look at other sites around the country, they do have existing capacity. I think what we would ask you to look at is the 127 years of Dow's history in Michigan. These are anchor investments. These are jobs that require people to show up and do work in person. So once assets are built here in Michigan, I couldn't with a straight face tell you nothing in the future will ever happen that will impact jobs. What I can tell you is that in our 127 years of operating in Michigan, we've maintained a steady workforce here. And these are jobs that once the assets are built, people need to be there to run them. And these are generational type assets. So the industry, the economic model to make these assets work, you can't build them and then abandon them in 5 years.
Thank you. May I have a follow-up to that? Sure. So this is to MEDC. We know that recently, probably the largest project in Michigan's history rolled back the Ford project, the Marshall project. And so what is the plan? Is the plan to return that money to taxpayers, or is there not a way we could leverage that money for this program instead of taking more out of the state coffers for it?
Sure. So the reduction in the Ford transactions resulted in a lapse of those funds back into the critical industry program. So yes, those could be used to fund future critical industry program grants. It could be, yes. Yep.
Okay, next question, Representative Schutte.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to our friends from Dow for coming to this presentation to the committee today. There's three things to start that stand out to me about this project, and one is I appreciate your transparency and early engagement with the members of this committee on this project. You know, you didn't ask me or anyone here to sign an NDA, which I think is notable, demonstrates your transparency. I think the voluntarily relinquishing your mega tax credits demonstrates good faith with this investment. And the nature of these, high-paying wage jobs, I probably should have paid more attention in chemistry class because these are definitely high-quality jobs that you're providing. And I think, you drank coffee out of a styrofoam cup this morning, or you covered your food with Saran wrap last night. You have homegrown Michigan R&D from Dow to thank for all of those products. And Dow's research and development is something that's important to me. My maternal grandfather was a first-generation immigrant from Germany. And he was able to escape living under the horrors of a Nazi-occupied Germany, or Nazi-run Germany, thanks to his eldest brother securing a job working for Dow's R&D department. And, as someone born and raised in Midland, Dow's prolonged investment in the community is important to me. You can't turn your head in Midland without seeing your investment and your presence in the community, from our Center for the Arts to the Dow Diamond, my alma mater, Midland Public Schools Dow High, to the industrial park, which Dow manages and serves as an incubator for other businesses and
Representative,
manufacturers.
we're,
Yeah.
we're really short on time.
Okay,
Can you get
so
to
then
the
my question would be, how will this investment in R&D and Dow resonate beyond the company? And do you project that additional companies will be attracted to or further in their investments in Michigan thanks to this infrastructure investment?
Thank you, Representative Schuette, and for what your family did with Dow. So we have chartered a growth project for the Dow Michigan Operations I-Park, and we want to attract like-minded, like-valued companies to partner with us for services, for land use in the industrial park. And Jeff mentioned, you know, we invest in these assets not just so Dow can continue to operate and maintain employees in the region. We do it so we can grow internally. We do it so that our other tenants can grow, and we do it so that we can attract growth of companies not yet to be in the I-Park, so that, you know, I will be working for Dow for another 20 years, hopefully, and I hope to raise my kids in Midland. I have an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And so for me, you know, Dow has to be sustainable for the long term, and so this investment will help us with that growth strategy and to attract growth in those 3 buckets of areas.
Thank you. And our last question is from Representative Steele.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your continued investment in Michigan. We need the economic boost in Michigan. So this question is actually for the MEDC, and it's really looking for the long-term strategic benefit of investing in this corporation and their water and sewer infrastructure compared to alternative investments in our public infrastructure, such as the flood and sewage mitigation upgrades that are needed in like Oakland and Macomb counties with the overflow of sewage, the Red Run Drain and the Coon Basin. And so we are facing critical issues that are affecting Lake St. Clair and sewage overflows that directly impact the health and safety of our citizens. How do we justify prioritizing corporate investments over the pressing community needs of investments in our water and sewage infrastructure? And so basically the question just narrows down to what is the return on investment of these funds going into Dow versus putting it back into our own communities?
Sure, that's a great question, Rep. Steele, and I would say we're getting a lot of investment in return for our investment, when you maintain a company like Dow, the tax revenues that can be generated off of that help to support, I think, generating revenues to do exactly the projects that you're talking about, right? We need people living in these communities, spending their money in these communities, generating revenues in these communities. And that's why an investment like this is important. I would also, I think maybe hearkening back to the earlier question on maintaining infrastructure, it's Dow that's going to be maintaining their infrastructure, not the city, right? So that means revenues from the city should be, can be directed towards the public investments versus the Dow investments, or Dow infrastructure, excuse me.
The water and sewer is an internal, it's not for the community per se.
Yeah, the proposed infrastructure investments are wholly contained within and owned by Dow to serve both our operations and our tenant companies. So good, bad, or indifferent, there is no impact to public infrastructure.
Okay, that appears to be all the questions for all of you. We do have another speaker in the audience, and it is Tony Stamas from the Midland Business Alliance. Tony, would you like to come up? We're going to hold for two-minute testimony, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I will be quick. I'm Tony Stamas, President and CEO of the Midland Business Alliance, and really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. I've lived in Midland my whole life, in a city of modern explorers, and so, often you think, okay, what that meant 100 years ago and what that means in 2024. But Dow has a long legacy of exploration research that goes back to its foundation. This project today is especially exciting because it demonstrates the continued commitment to research and development, and that's something we talk about a lot as a state. It's a foundational piece as we go forward and part of our great legacy. It reaffirms Dow's commitment to our state, our region, our community. And as economic development is discussed, the critical nature of keeping and building research and development is regularly noted. This project fits directly with that priority and investment in our future. It is really directly aligned and perfectly aligned with Michigan's innovation legacy that leads to manufacturing jobs and job creation. So, so much appreciate your consideration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions? There are no questions. Thanks for coming in, Tony. All right, we do have a couple cards to read in. Brian Scho from Detroit Regional Chamber supports the bill. Oh my God, I can't read that. Saginaw Future supports the bill. Saginaw Chamber supports the bill. Crest Lake Bay Regional supports the bill, and the Bay Chamber supports the bill. We're now going to shift gears and take up a couple property conveyance bills at the request of DTMB, House Bill 4938 and House Bill 5913. Here with us today is the Legislative Liaison Neil D'Souza from DTMB to give us a rundown of these two bills and the department's interest in them. We did take testimony on House Bill 4938 from DMVA and DTMB earlier this year, so hopefully this will just be a quick refresher. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for that introduction. I will jump right into it with House Bill 5913 for the sake of time. This is a property, it's 1/3 of an acre of unused state land under DTMB jurisdiction. We are requesting through the bill the ability to sell it by fair market value to the Michigan Police Equipment Company. The company is a Lansing area company, and they can't fully operate without clearing the title by taking this land through conveyance. This issue sort of came up in the recently. It was an inadvertent encroachment that started in the 1980s. When discovered a couple of years ago, the state entered into a short-term lease on the encroachment with Michigan Police Equipment Company. That is for a nominal fee plus the coverage of liability insurance. But this rental agreement is a short-term stopgap. It's not a long-term solution, and the long-term solution is ultimately conveyance of the property. The state has no use for the property currently, and we've identified no risks in conveying the property. So we're asking for your support on House Bill 5913 so we can convey the property to the company. I'm happy to take any questions, but in the sake of time, I'll try and keep it short.
Thank you, Neil. It doesn't, Representative Leitner has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just curious in looking through this and other conveyances we've done, has there been another time where we convey to a company that's not a local government?
Generally, we convey openly, and anybody can bid on these. This property is a unusually shaped strip of land that is surrounded by state land and this private company's land. It's unusable to any third party. It has their building on it.
Well, without taking down the building.
Correct. So as written, the state has 2 years to sell to the Michigan Police Equipment Company. Otherwise, we would come back to the legislature for a new act granting permission to sell to any third party.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further questions, Representative Morgan moves to report House Bill 4938 with recommendation as substitute H1. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Whitwer,
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill, Rixey, Hood, Braybeck, Morse, Curry, Stackhoff, Weiss, Martis, McKinney,
Yes.
Representative Curry, Representative Mensert, Morgan, Price, Skaggs,
Yes.
Snyder, Wilson, Leitner, Bolin, Green, Slaw, Beeson, Horton, Fink, Cavett,
Yes.
DeBoer,
Pass.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Shooty, Steele. Representative Morse. Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 1 nay, 12 pass. House Bill 4938 is reported with recommendation as substitute H1.
Thank you. Representative Braybeck now moves to report House Bill 5913 with recommendation. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Whitwer.
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill. Yes. Brixey. Hood. Braybeck. Morse. Curry. Steckloff. Weiss. Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Menser. Morgan. Price. Skaggs. Snyder. Wilson. Leitner. Bolin. Green. Slaw. Beeson. Borton. Fink. Cavett. DeBoer. Kuhn. Shudi. Steele. Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 12 nays, no pass. House Bill 5913 is reported with recommendation.
Thank you. Next, we have several budget implementation bills that reflect spending adjustments included in the fiscal year 25 budget, starting with a set of 4 bills that make statutory changes to the Compulsive Gaming Prevention Fund. These bills are Senate Bill 926, 931, 933, and 934, all sponsored by Senator Anthony. We have a House fiscal person here today to explain the handful of proposed changes to the fund in front of you. Kevin Korstra will be giving short testimony and answering any questions.
Good morning. As the chair mentioned, my name is Kevin Korstra with the House Fiscal Agency. And taken together, Senate Bills 926, 933, and 934 would increase the annual deposits into the Compulsive Gaming Prevention Fund from various lottery and gaming revenues from $2 million to $6 million. And then 931 would then amend the Compulsive Gaming Prevention Act to account for these increased deposits. Specifically, 926 would increase the deposit from the state lottery fund from $1 million to $2 million. 933 would increase the deposit from the Internet Sports Betting Fund from $500,000 to $1 million. Senate Bill 934 would increase the deposit from the Internet Gaming Fund from $500,000 to $3 million. And then 931 would amend the Compulsive Gaming Prevention Act to account for those increased deposits, as well as allow the state treasurer to deposit any other resources that are required to pay into the Compulsive Gaming Fund. As the chair mentioned, this additional $4 million has been accounted for in the fiscal year 25 DHHS budget. And this additional fund will be used to support the Problem Gaming Helpline, media outreach, and provide additional prevention programming, including additional services and new services targeted for youth. And then this $4 million increase of the Compulsive Gaming Fund would reduce revenues to the school aid fund by a corresponding amount. And the summary before you does kind of note the history and the trends of both the state lottery revenues as well as the newer internet sports betting revenues and internet gaming revenues.
Okay, do we have any questions? Seeing no further questions, Representative Morse moves to report Senate Bill 926 with recommendation. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Whitwer.
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill. Brixey. Hood. Braybeck. Morse. Curry. Steckloff. Weiss. Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Menser. Morgan. Price. Skaggs. Snyder. Wilson. Leitner. Representatives Bolin. Green. Slaw. Beeson. Borton. Fink. Cavett. DeBoer.
Pass.
Kuhn. Shudi. Steele. Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 10 nays, 2 pass. Senate Bill 926 is reported with recommendation.
Thank you. Our next bill, Senate Bill 931, does have a proposed substitute. Representative Martis moves to adopt substitute H1 to Senate Bill 931. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to adopt the H1 substitute, Chair Whitwer.
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill. Brixey. Hood. Braybeck. Morse. Purry. Steckloff. Weiss. Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Menser. Morgan. Price.
Yes.
Skaggs.
Yes.
Snyder. Wilson. Lightner. Bolin. Green. Slaw. Beeson. Horton. Fink. Cavett.
Yes.
DeBoer.
Yes.
Kuhn.
Yes.
Shooty. Steele. Madam Chair, you have 28 yeas, 0 nays, 1 pass. The H1 is adopted.
Thank you. Representative Hood now moves to report Senate Bill 931 with recommendation as substitute H1. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Whitwer.
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill. Brixey. Hood. Braybeck. Morse. Hurry. Steckloff. Weiss. Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Menser. Morgan. Price. Skaggs. Snyder. Wilson. Lightner. Bolin. Green. Slaw. Beeson. Horton. Fink. Cavett. DeBoer. Kuhn.
Pass.
Shooty. Steele. Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 2 nays, 10 pass. Senate Bill 931 is reported with recommendation as substitute H1.
Thank you. Next is Senate Bill 933. Representative Puri moves to report Senate Bill 933 with recommendation. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Whitwer.
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill. Brixey. Hood. Braybeck. Morse. Puri. Steckloff. Weiss. Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Menser. Morgan. Price. Skaggs.
Yes.
Snyder. Wilson. Lightner. Bolin. Green. Slaw. Beeson. Horton. Fink. Cavett.
No.
DeBoer.
Pass.
Kuhn.
No.
Shooty. Steele. Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 10 nays, 2 pass. Senate Bill 933 is reported with recommendation.
Thank you. And the last bill in the Compulsive Gaming Prevention Fund package is Senate Bill 934. Representative Price moves to report Senate Bill 934 with recommendation. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Whitwer.
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill. Brixey. Hood. Braybeck. Morse. Hurry. Steckloff. Weiss. Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Menser. Morgan. Price. Skaggs.
Yes.
Snyder. Wilson. Lightner. Bolin. Green. Slaw. Beeson. Horton. Fink. Sorry, Fink. Cavett.
No.
DeBoer.
Pass.
Kuhn.
No.
Shooty. Steele. Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 10 nays, 2 pass. Senate Bill 934 is reported with recommendation.
Thank you. We'll ask House Fiscal again to provide more summaries on our next 4 bills, Senate Bills 928, 929, 932, and 935, all sponsored by Senator Anthony. Kent Dell and Sidney Brown are here to give testimony and answer any questions.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Kent Dell with House Fiscal. 3 bills I will speak to, 928, 929, and 932, the former 2 being part of the Medicaid program, and the latter impacting the FIP program. Senate Bill 928 would eliminate the requirement that unwed fathers pay a portion of the birth expenses for Medicaid births. The bill would increase the cost by about $13.7 million gross, $4.8 million general fund, both of which have been accounted for in the 24-25 DHHS budget. DHHS notes that about costs for average cost for unwed fathers is about $2,000, whereas average collection is about $1,200. Senate Bill 929 would amend the Health and Safety Fund Act. Specifically, this would eliminate the hospital dish payments as part of the managed care program or managed care administrative rule change. Dish distributions go away, so these additional funds that were there used for dish, which is disproportionate share hospital or payments for Medicaid, payments for hospitals have a disproportionate share of Medicaid patients. This again would be $4.6 million of state restricted revenues that would be available to distribute to the Medicaid program to cover, since they are no longer being used for dish payments. And lastly, Senate Bill 932. This would eliminate the 48-month lifetime time limits on the FIP program and increase it to this 60 months in line with the federal statute. The costs here would be approximately 1.8 to 2.9 million in TANF revenue. This is based on the average cost per case in May CREC being $374 per case. That would be about $1.8 million for the estimated 400 cases that this would apply to. But again, it depends on policy and how the department decides to change those payment standards. So for example, FIP expenditures could be up to $2.9 million if every one of those cases were a 4-member family. And I'm happy to answer any questions on those 3 bills that you may have.
Representative Fink has a question.
Yes, thank you. I have a question about 928. As I understand it, Medicaid is a means-tested program, so I presume that when you have a situation where a child is going to be born out of wedlock, that means, and this legislation would apply, that's a Medicaid, a mother who's on Medicaid or receiving Medicaid benefits. And I guess my question is, if we are not going to make it even possible to pursue a portion of the cost of labor and delivery to the father, how would that work, say, if it was a low-income married couple? In other words, are we going to make it more expensive to have a child if you are low-income and married than it would be if you were not married?
Negative. From my understanding, sir, this bill would simply treat unwed parents simply the same as married. So instead of trying to collect from the unwed father, they would simply treat it as it would be a regular Medicaid birth, as if the parents were married.
But I guess my question, though, is we won't actually know if the father was capable of contributing to the cost of labor and delivery. If you have a married couple that are receiving benefits, then you know whether those people are going to be eligible for benefits or required to pay a portion or whatever, right? Because you have the whole family there. That's the program. In this case, you could have a woman who is on Medicaid. You could have a father who is more than capable of paying some portion of the cost of labor and delivery, but we're not going to actually find that out if we make this change, right?
As far as income assessment goes for the father, that is a question I would defer to the department, how they operate. That is not a question I know off the top of my head. Definitely something I could find out for you. However, again, any change like that would be more policy related. I can tell you that the funds would still be Medicaid match eligible, any state funds. So it would simply be for the state treating it as simply a married family having a birth on Medicaid.
Okay.
I know that's not really an answer to your
you.
question, sir, but.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can move on. Thank you.
Our last question is from Representative Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Kent. Can you maybe restate what you were saying in regards to, we're going to appropriate this money, and then the department is just going to do whatever it wants to do, and we're not saying that they even have to raise their rates. We're just putting more money into the pot, and then they can just do whatever they want to do with the dollars that we're appropriating?
For the Senate Bill 932, the FIP, is that what you're speaking to, sir? Yes. So for this, the $20 million was appropriated for this specific reason through budget negotiations. This was included for both the, as you know, for both the getting rid of the time limit, but also a possible rate increase. I don't have the payment tables that DHHS did not give me any payment tables as far as like what the new rates would be. Whether or not they've decided that, I'm not certain. But what I can tell you is that the $20 million, by my estimate, would cover that change. As far as the rate increase goes and how much that would cost, I do not know.
So we're just giving them money saying, please spend the money?
Is this a question?
I believe that ended with a question mark, yes.
Yes, so for the $20 million, so portion of it paying for the change in the time limits, I estimate somewhere between $1.8 and $2.9 million in that TANF revenue, and the remainder would be for rate increases for the existing cases or to change all the payment standards, which would be something that the department would have to notify us prior to making those changes.
Thank you. There's no more questions. Thank you for coming. We have one card to read in. It's Rachel Richards from Michigan League for Public Policy, and she supports this bill. Seeing no further questions, Rep. O'Neill moves to report Senate Bill 928 with recommendation. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Whitwer.
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill. Yes. Brixey. Hood. Braybeck. Morse. Purry. Steckloff. Weiss. Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Menser. Morgan. Price. Skaggs. Snyder. Wilson. Lightner. Bolin. Green. Slaw. Beeson. Horton. Fink. Cavett. DeBoer.
Pass.
Kuhn.
No.
Shooty. Steele. Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 10 nays, 1 pass. Senate Bill 928 is reported with recommendation.
Thank you. Our next bill, Senate Bill 929, has a proposed substitute. Rep. Snyder moves to adopt substitute H1 to Senate Bill 929. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to adopt the H1 substitute, Chair Whitwer.
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill. Brixey. Hood. Raybeck. Morse. Purry. Steckloff. Weiss. Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Menser. Morgan. Price. Skaggs. Snyder. Wilson. Lightner. Bolin. Green. Slaw. Beeson. Horton. Fink. Cavett. DeBoer.
Pass.
Kuhn.
No.
Shooty. Steele. Madam Chair, you have 24 yeas, 4 nays, 1 pass. The H1 is adopted.
Thank you. Representative McKinney now moves to report Senate Bill 929 with recommendation as substitute H1. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Whitwer.
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill. Brixey. Hood. Braybeck. Morse. Purry. Steckloff. Weiss. Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Menser. Morgan. Price. Skaggs. Snyder. Wilson. Lightner. Bolin. Green. Slaw. Beeson. Horton. Fink. Cavett. DeBoer.
Pass.
Kuhn.
No.
Shooty. Steele. Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 10 nays, 2 pass. Senate Bill 929 is reported with recommendation as substitute H1.
Thank you. Next is Senate Bill 932. Representative Brixey moves to report Senate Bill 932 with recommendation. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Whitwer.
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill. Brixey. Hood. Braybeck. Morse. Purry. Steckloff. Weiss. Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Menser. Morgan. Price. Skaggs. Snyder. Wilson. Lightner. Bolin. Green. Slaw. Beeson. Horton. Fink. Cavett. DeBoer.
No.
Kuhn.
No.
Shooty. Steele. Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 12 nays, no pass. Senate Bill 932 is reported with recommendation.
Thank you. Our last bill in this set is Senate Bill 935. Representative Steckloff moves to report Senate Bill 935 with recommendation. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Whitwer.
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill. Brixey. Hood. Braybeck. Morse. Purry. Steckloff. Weiss. Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Menser. Morgan. Price. Skaggs. Snyder. Wilson. Lightner. Bolin. Green. Slaw. Beeson. Sorry, Slaw, did you say yes? Beeson. Borton. Fink. Cavett. DeBoer.
Pass.
Kuhn.
Yes.
Shooty. Steele. Madam Chair, you have 18 yeas, 0 nays, 11 pass. Senate Bill 935 is reported with recommendation.
Thank you. Our final two bills today will be taken up as a pair. We have Senate Bill 790, sponsored by Senator Hertel, and Senate Bill 791, sponsored by Senator Santana. The bills do both have proposed substitutes that will need to be adopted before we do anything further with testimony. First, Representative McKinney moves to adopt substitute H1 to Senate Bill 790. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to adopt the H1 substitute, Chair Whitwer.
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill. Brixey. Hood. Braybeck. Morse. Purry. Steckloff. Weiss. Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Menser. Morgan. Price. Skaggs. Snyder. Wilson. Lightner. Bolin. Green. Slaw. Beeson. Horton. Fink. Cavett.
No.
DeBoer.
No.
Kuhn.
No.
Shudi. Steele. Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 12 nays, 0 pass. The H1 is adopted.
Thank you. Now Representative Wilson moves to adopt substitute H1 to Senate Bill 791. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to adopt the H1 substitute, Chair Whitwer.
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill. Brixey. Hood. Braybeck. Morse. Hurry. Steckloff. Weiss. Martis. McKinney.
Yes.
Menser. Morgan. Price. Skaggs. Snyder. Wilson. Lightner. Bolin. Green. Slaw. Beeson. Borton. Fink. Cavett.
No.
DeBoer.
No.
Kuhn.
No.
Shudi. Steele. Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 12 nays, no pass. The H1 is adopted.
Thank you. To kick off testimony on this package, we have the sponsors of the bills, Senator Hertel and Senator Santana. We also have Ravina Turner and Carmen H. Avada from Michigan Home Care Workers United. I appreciate y'all being here, and feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the House Appropriations Committee for hearing testimony on these bills today. In every corner of our state, there are dedicated home care workers who are supporting Michiganders with disabilities and assisting our seniors as they age with dignity. Their work is critical to giving families relief and the ability to earn a paycheck, knowing their loved ones are safe and secure. But for too long, though, our home health care workers, while they are vital to our economy, they have been an invisible sector of our society, leading to caregivers often being overlooked, undervalued, and underpaid. At the moment, these individuals are not getting the pay that they deserve, yet every single day they wake up and do a highly demanding job that is oftentimes physically and emotionally taxing, and they do it with the love and compassion and professionalism. These are individuals whose lives revolve around providing care for others, yet they are not receiving the resources they need to care for themselves and afford basic necessities like their food, their rent, and their medical care. It's time we treat them like the essential workers that they are and give them the tools they need to secure higher wages, health insurance, and other benefits. And that's exactly what we are setting out to do here today with Senate Bill 790 and 791. While home health care workers did have the ability to unionize for a brief period under the Granholm administration, thousands of Michigan caregivers saw this right stripped from them in 2012. And for over a decade, these workers have been unable to come together and collectively bargain for their basic needs, a right that should be afforded to all working people in our state, not just some. As a result, we can expect to see higher and fairer wages for caregivers, which would help us improve the sustainability of our economy, attracting more workers to this sector and reducing staffing shortages while also improving the health and safety of patients across our state. And another great benefit of this legislation is the statewide impact it will have on all Michiganders. Investments in home health care are an economic multiplier. For every dollar we spend, we receive a greater return, leading to a strong economic growth that will help propel our entire state forward. I ask for your support on these bills today. Thank you.
Good morning, Appropriations Committee members. It's an honor to be here today. My colleague, Senator Hertel, basically expressed what is really important to our home health care workers, making sure that they have the opportunity to unionize in our state. And with that, would allow for them to have the opportunity to make sure that they have the proper wages, also making sure that we as a state also put in the infrastructure to make sure that families and loved ones who are looking for home health care workers have the ability to access a database in order to support that communication and registry of those workers to make sure that those individuals can be supported. But Senate Bill 791, the substitute that is before you today, adds clarifying language throughout the bill to align it with the language of Senate Bill 790, that home health care workers and individuals will provide, providers are public employees solely for the purpose of collective bargaining. What that means is that we are looking at and identifying these individuals for the purposes only of collecting bargaining. They're not considered state employees here as the state of Michigan, but for that reason, to collective bargain. So that's what Senate Bill 791 does, but I just want to make sure that we understand that these are the individuals who are taking care of our most vulnerable in the state. And it's imperative that we make sure that we take care of them when they need respite care, and also make sure that their wages are adequate. It's unfortunate that oftentimes you can go to McDonald's and make more money than those who are taking care of our loved ones. So I hope that you all will take these bills into consideration and support them. And with that said, I will pass it on.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to share my testimony in support of Senate Bills 790 and 791. My name is Jamie Worker, and I'm Director of Public Policy at Caring Across Generations, a national organization working on behalf of family caregivers, care workers, disabled people, and seniors to change the way we support and value caregiving in our culture and policies in Michigan and across the country, from aging and disability care to child care to paid family and medical leave and good jobs for care workers. Most Michiganders want to live and age in their own homes and communities, but a shortage of good jobs in the home care field means that older adults and people with disabilities aren't able to access the services that they need. Michigan's communities are older than the national average, and the number of adults over 65 is expected to increase by over 450,000 people by 2030. More than a quarter of people in Michigan have a disability that makes it difficult to do everyday tasks or other activities needed to live independently. These are just some of the reasons why Michigan is expected to need more than 180,000 home care workers over the next decade. In Michigan's largest home care program, known as Home Help, 35,000 workers provide services to nearly 60,000 seniors and people with disabilities. These workers provide life-saving, essential care that support older adults and people with disabilities to live full and dignified lives. These workers are also paid just $13.53 per hour. And across the state, well over half rely on public assistance to make ends meet. These workers need family-sustaining wages and benefits and the freedom to join and form a union. Senate Bills 790 and 791 would restore the freedom to join a union for home help program workers and establish a public authority to provide critical workforce training and support families seeking services to get the care that they need. Each of us will need to give or receive care at some point in our lifetime, whether it's as disabled people or older adults who are seeking to live independently, parents or other family caregivers who are providing care for their spouses, siblings, children, or care workers who make all other work possible. Michigan's family caregivers and people with disabilities and older adults need our support, and this starts with a strong and stable workforce. I urge the committee to pass Senate Bills 790 and 791 today. Thank you for the invitation to join this hearing and share my testimony.
My name is Ravina Turner. I live in Dearborn Heights, Michigan. I am a home care worker of 35,000 home care workers who provide work for Michigan Home Help Program. I'm thankful for this opportunity to speak to you guys today on behalf of the Bill 790 and 791. The reason why I take care of my daughter, who became sick all of a sudden at the age of 7 with Crohn's and colitis. She's had multiple surgeries. She just had a surgery 2 months ago. She was supposed to be with me today, but unfortunately she had to go back to the hospital, so she's not here with us. This is why I'm so passionate about this bill being passed. She's had multiple surgeries. Childhood has been very rough. And as a parent, I don't know if you know who are as parents or not, but caring for a sick child is very hard. You can't just go to your neighborhood drugstore and buy a bottle of Tylenol and say, here, take this, you'll be fine. So it's been challenging, but I won't take up your time with that. The reason I'm here today is we've been robbed of the ability to have a living wage, affordable health care, living safely and securely. We were robbed of our right for a union. Earlier this morning, I heard someone speak on good paying jobs and six-figure wages. Now here we are, home care workers, and we can't even afford basic living. As she stated, a lot of us are on assistance as well. I asked to consider the jarring disparities between the two of them. As a result, the home health care workers have failed to thrive. People are leaving this work in droves because of the pay. Turnover is almost 100% because of what the workers are being paid less than $14 an hour. Things don't change. There'll be no caregivers left. And that's the honest to God truth. I'm sorry. Representatives, you have an obligation to the people of Michigan to look after your senior, your mental ill, your disabled. All I can say is please pass this bill today, 790 and 791. And I thank you for your time and opportunity to speak to you guys.
Good morning. My name is Carmen Echevarria. I am a full-time caregiver for my son, Pedro. I am proud to be a mother, and I am proud to be a home care worker. I am here to tell you that you must pass SB 7 and 791 today. Like many others, I had to quit my career to become a home care worker for my son. I went from having a good job making $600 a week to a job with no benefits, no health insurance, and no time to making only $663 a month. It was a very hard adjustment. My son comes first. Care cannot wait. We do important work. We feel like mistreated and unvalued. Caring for another person can be very difficult, especially if they need care 24/7. And it takes a lot of patience and selflessness. People like my son deserve life. They deserve the freedom to live the way they want to, and with the people and place they love. That is why I need to make home care job better. We need more caregivers. We need a better care system, and home care workers deserve a higher pay and more respect for what we do. I am proud to be involved in Michigan Home Care Workers United because we're fighting to improve our life for everyone. That is what it's all about. Care workers like myself want to do our job well, but we need your support. We need a union because without the ability to come together, we are forgotten and left out. We need a union to support our another. We need a union to be successful and change our care system. Otherwise, people like my son won't be able to care their needs and may be forced to live away from their home and people they love. Home care is not a political issue. It doesn't matter if you are Republican or Democrat. Care is something we all must face at some point. We have speaking out for so long. We are excited to finally have our moment here in Lansing. When the Senate passed this bill in June, we were so hopeful and excited. We have held on that hope. Now, the House needs to finish the job. I am asking to make the right choice by passing SB 790 and 791. We are doing for all the loved ones, for all the human beings. And at one point, we all need someone to take care of us, our parents, our children, other human beings. And we, the healthcare workers, are giving our time, our moment, our life. I have to put my career. I am a professional woman that I can make a lot of money, but I had to put all that on the side to take care of someone, my loved one, because I didn't want to put in a home. And that's why I'm here, and for that reason, for all the human beings, we asking you to please pass SB 790 and 791 today. And I want to thank you all for all your time and caring.
Thank you.
You're
We do
welcome.
have a few questions. Representative Leitner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I just want to say thank you to all of you that are here today to, be a part of this process. But I also want to get to some inside baseball because this is appropriations, and we've heard a lot about the stories and the policy and stuff like that. But we do need to get down to the nitty gritty, and I know we have our internal documents, but I want you to talk to me about the costs to the state and therefore to the taxpayers for implementing this. The cost it's going to be in regards to wages, benefits, the ranges, and how we're actually going to cover the 100% of it because, there is general fund money that is involved in this along with Medicaid money. So can you just talk to me about the actual figures, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Leitner, for your question. So this current budget that is going into effect October 1, we appropriated $1 million just to begin the implementation phase of putting in the infrastructure for our software system and to help support the unionizing.
That's just admin cost. right?
Correct. So that is the initial cost. Eventually, once the system is up and running, the cost will be nominal to the state because we will have everything in place to actually have those billing cycles taken care of.
Well, that's just admin costs, the actual costs to the state of implementing and, increasing benefits and pay and all of that. Like, what's that fiscal amount? Do you have that in front of you?
No, we don't have that actuary number at this point. However, when you look at the cost it will cost if we don't have a system in place, it's going to be more expensive if these individuals cannot take care of their loved ones, and also it will be more expensive if we don't have home health care workers.
Okay, thank you. Representative Menser?
Thank you. I didn't do home health care. I worked in a nursing facility. I brushed other people's teeth. I took care of their bodily functions. I washed them at night. I put their 6 blankets on them as a comfort, even though it was 90 degrees, because they couldn't sleep without those 6 blankets. So I know what it's like. I know the thanklessness of this job. I know the despair of this job. I didn't quit because of those things. I quit because my coworkers in a hazing ritual locked me in the basement where the morgue was when my first patient died and turned off the lights on me. That might explain some things to my colleagues. But this is a job that very few people want to do with compassion.
Yes.
With compassion.
Yes.
And so I want to tell you right now, I'm 100% behind both these bills.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 2 questions. May I ask them?
Sure.
Thank you all for being here. In Michigan, there is a right to unionize already. Why do we have to pass another bill to allow the right to unionize? That's my first question.
So there's no mechanism for these employees, and I'll grant to you that this is a unique situation, given a lot of these individuals are providing care for their loved ones. They're not hired by a company. So under the current law, they don't have the ability to form a union here in the state of Michigan. That was taken away from them in 2012. There was a previous executive order that did allow for that to occur, but when that was rescinded, all of the ability for these individuals sitting behind me and across the state lost their ability to form a union here in Michigan.
Okay, second question. In 791 expressly, we'll be allowing private employees to become state employees for the sole purpose of unionization. So what is the process of switching back and forth between being a state employee and a private employee? What is the process of how to do that?
So with this legislation, we're creating a framework for this to occur, and that will be done through the department. Once we create that framework, we'll give these people the ability to interact with that state department to move all of this forward. I guess I don't know how to answer your question any further than that.
So basically, we're just saying you have the right to do this, but we're not really giving you a mechanism to do it?
So just as any union is formed here in the state or anywhere else, when folks have the ability to unionize, that doesn't guarantee a union will be created. These bills do nothing to create a union. It opens up a system and puts in place the ability for them to unionize if they so choose. And then that process will work out how they bargain with this state department.
For our last question, Representative McKinney.
Thank you, Chair Whitwer. Appreciate everybody's testimony and for being here today. Just a quick comment about how much I support you guys. You know, my wife and I were part of the sandwich generation. We have 2 young baby boys at home, but we also take care of our parents and grandparents. My wife's father passed away last year from ALS, and my wife's mother, my mother-in-law, she has MS, and they both need home care workers. And so I see what you guys do day in and day out. And the fact that you guys can't even afford the health care and services you're providing is shameful in this state. And we need to make sure that we're not telling folks that they are required to join a union or pay dues, or telling them and giving them the opportunity to make that decision on their own, to join a union if they so choose, and to make sure they have the right to collectively bargain for better pay, better wages, and better health care. That's all these workers deserve, and that's all they want to do. And trust and believe, I'm with Rep. Mintzer. You guys got my support. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We actually do have a couple more questions. I apologize. Representative Morse.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what we know about our state currently is that we do not possibly have enough capacity to take care of all the people that need home health care, like my parents as well, in our system as it exists. So there's no doubt that this is going to be expensive. We can't ignore that fact. But also we can't ignore the fact that we need people at home taking care of their loved ones. And so I think that this is a bigger picture thing that we need to consider. This is an investment in the people of our state who are at home taking care of their families. So I'm just wondering, is there any data around what kind of capacity our home health worker industry provides for the state versus, facilities that we have? Any data on capacity?
I'm going to take a stab at this. Thank you for the question, Rep. Morris, but I'm just going to look at the projections as far as our seniors in the state of Michigan. When you look at the number of people who are at that retirement age or getting to that age where they need support in our state, it's a significant amount. In the next 5 to 10 years, you will see a lot of the baby boomers who are at that retirement age, or not even at the retirement age, but at that age of needing more care. But as far as the number of home health care workers, obviously, for this particular, we have over 35,000 home health care workers currently. And so just think about, as we continue to have people who are wanting to take care of their loved ones in the home, this legislation becomes much more relevant to being able to provide that support. As far as specific numbers, I think you all can look within your own families and see the number of people who may need support in the future.
And
Go
ahead.
I would also add that we know that a growing share of folks want to be able to live in their own homes and communities. And so even now, the majority of funding for long-term care, the biggest source being Medicaid, goes towards home and community-based care. And so that's one point that I wanted to add, knowing that the need is only going to grow, and in order to provide the stability in services that folks need, we need a strong and stable workforce.
Thank you. And for our last question, Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a comment. Thank all of you for being here and for what you represent. And for us as legislators, and I really appreciate the comment in terms of this issue is not a Republican or Democrat issue, it's a people issue. And I think it really shows the lens of our heart as a state and as a country. For those of us who practice Christianity or faith, the word says, as oft as we do to the least of these, we do unto thee. And what that means is, all of us will have this transition as we go further to the age, if you will. I had a personal experience myself. I was a caretaker for my wife. I was married for 30 years. My wife had breast cancer. She had one phase, she got through it. The second phase, she came back. I had to quit work. I could not go to work because I had to care for my wife. And I did it proudly. And it wasn't an easy task. So I sympathize with you in that sense, because all of us at some point in time, as my colleagues have said, will experience taking care of loved ones. And so it really is a window to our souls in terms as legislators. We're responsible for all people, not just some people. And so with that being said, I'm 100% behind what you represent and what you do. And so thank you for being here, and thank you for the courage to do what you're doing.
Okay, I apologize. Representative Leitner has one more question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This just gets back to some technical stuff. So it's my understanding, for the purposes, obviously, of collective bargaining, these people are considered public employees. So tell me how it would look if they decide they want to be a part of the union. Who is their bargaining unit? Like, who's the individual or entity responsible for their bargaining on their behalf?
And that's why we're creating that infrastructure here at the state, not only so that these home health care workers have,
So another commission in the state.
yes, and so they have the ability to interact for training and employment purposes. You have individuals doing this work today who, if they do not receive their paycheck on time, and right now they get paid every 30 days, not every 2 weeks like a lot of other employers would pay, that if they don't receive their paycheck, if it went to the wrong address, if they received the wrong amount, it is a nightmare for them to engage in a state bureaucracy and know where to go and get the information that they need. So part of this, while I get the unionization becomes a focus of what we're trying to do here today, but part of this is to create that infrastructure in a state so they have a council to go to when they need help. If they were to form a union and enough members opted into that union, those who do, and anybody who decides not to opt in, would have no place in the union. In fact, it's very clear through a Supreme Court ruling, Harris v. Quinn, that occurred with an issue in Illinois, that every member who so chooses to be a part of this union would have to opt in. They would deal with this council that is being created through these bills, and that's where the bargaining would occur.
And who does the council actually report to for like transparency reporting, accountability?
There'll be a state organization, I would imagine, that just as any of our departments are open to FOIA and other obligations, there'll be an entity of the state.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, I appreciate everyone coming in this morning, and we will be moving on to our next speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure, thank you, Senators. Next up, wishing to speak, we have Patrick Wright, Vice President of Legal Affairs at the Mackinac Center for Public Policy. Patrick, you can get started whenever you're ready.
Thank you for the opportunity to discuss these important matters in front of this committee. I appreciate the chance. This is an unnecessary taking of money from people who are caring for our sick and disabled family members just to give it to a union. Why? This isn't collective bargaining. The care recipient is the person that hires and fires the care provider. The state and federal government provides the money. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services handles the tax withholdings. There is nothing here that a fake employer can do except masquerade as a collective bargaining foil. This isn't the UAW and Ford. This is lobbying, pure and simple. The Home Health Caregiver Council is a useless sham. Since mandatory unionization ended in 2013, the program has doubled in funding, from around $300 million to around $600 million over this last decade. You, the legislature, decide the funding levels and the pay rates. If you feel that these people are underpaid, you can fix that right now without a union. So what is the benefit of giving the union a 2.75% cut of $600 million? For the union, that's up to $16.3 million a year bounty. We are going to force caregivers to take time away from their loved ones to attend a mandatory training on important yet fairly simple tasks like bathing, feeding, and toiletry. Everyday tasks they already know how to do. They'll also be forced to sit through a half-hour unionization drive, a special privilege given to no other lobbying group. The SEIU will be able to use this time to pressure individuals into joining the union. And once in the union, similar schemes in other states show that the SEIU will do everything it can to keep people from getting out. Aside of being bad policy, it's unconstitutional. This body cannot make private citizens public employees, just as anyone who receives Medicare or Medicaid and the doctors who provide them care are not public employees. And even if we were to accept the fiction that they are, they would be under the Michigan Civil Service Commission, not Merck, as these bills presume. These two bills would take necessary resources from our most vulnerable citizens and their family members and divert a windfall to the SEIU for the union to use as it sees fit including spending on partisan politics. This is atrocious public policy, and you should reject it. I thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing no questions. All right then. Representative Weiss.
Thank you. So just a question. You gave some data about investments over the past decade. Can you speak to what have wages been over the past decade? Have they gone up? Have they gone down? Have they been stagnant? How has that worked out for home health care workers in the state?
They've gone up. The number, I believe, in 2013 was around $6.90 or something along those lines, and it's now 13 and change. 13 and a quarter, I believe, is what the wages are now.
So we're still not above $14 an hour.
Not to my knowledge. I believe the last figure I saw was for $13.25 was the last hourly rate.
What about any benefits or anything?
There are no benefits. Again, this is a means test program. You all can, as you're the legislature, if you want to say that you would like to provide benefits for 35,000 people, you may certainly do that without a union. You have provided them funding increases pretty much from 2013 on, and you currently have that power. So the question is, what is the unionization adding? And the answer is nothing except an opportunity to divert money to a different place. All of this stuff is in your power. Any collective bargaining agreement, and I'm using that term in scare quotes, doesn't really exist. It's a joint lobbying statement between the union and this so-called employer that they would bring to you, the legislature. And you would have the opportunity to say, we want to give these people more money, or we do not. And that would be in the vote that you make the same way you make it every year in the general omnibus bill for budgeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more question. Representative Steele.
Thank you. Just maybe you might be able to answer the question that Representative Leitner asked earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry, Representative, I couldn't see.
It was just the cost of the whole entire, if you have a rough estimate of this. Just
Sure.
'cause I would
For
like
the 24-25 year, you all have budgeted $593,454,500. That is from 2024 Public Act 121 at page 129. That does not include the $1 million implementation fund and another $9 million on top of that to, for this fake employer to operate for the next 10 years.
So $520 million a year, roughly.
593.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Sure, there are no further questions. That appears it for testimony. We do have a couple of cards to read in. The first card is Allison Herschel, Michigan Elder Justice Initiative. She does not wish to speak, but she does support the bill. Wendy Block from the Michigan Chamber, she does not support the bill. Amanda Fisher from NFIB, she does not support the bill. Okay, we do have a few proposed amendments. Representative Leitner is offering an amendment to Senate Bill 790. Representative, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In regards to Senate Bill 790, I have an amendment on page 2, line 14 and 15. And this amendment would change the definition of the individual home health care giver. What? Are we doing 790? Oh, sorry, line 16. Anyways, it's, like I said, it changes the definition of individual home health care giver to exempt individual home health care workers who are family members of the participant from the definition. With that, I move my amendment.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to amend, Chair Whitwer.
Pass.
Representatives O'Neill.
Pass.
Brixey. Hood. Raybeck. Morse. Puri. Steckloff. Weiss. Martis. McKinney.
No.
Menser. Morgan. Price.
No.
Skaggs.
No.
Snyder.
Pass.
Wilson? Lightner?
Yes.
Bolin?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Slaw? Beeson?
Yes.
Horton?
Yes.
Fink?
Yes.
Cabot?
Yes.
DeBoer?
Yes.
Kuhn?
Yes.
Shooty?
Yes.
Steele?
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 12 yeas, 7 nays, 10 pass. The amendment is not adopted.
Thank you. We have a second amendment from Representative Bolin. Representative, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And first of all, a big thank you. I really do applaud everybody who's given their personal testimony as one who has been a caregiver and had to find caregivers. I find your role to be extremely important and also have supported the increases in the annual budgets. But this amendment will create a new provision that would require the department and union representative to hand out information on their Janus rights in all pre-service orientation and training sessions should this bill pass. And with that, I offer my amendment.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to amend, Chair Whitwer?
No.
Representatives O'Neill? Brixey? Hood? Braybeck? Morse? Curry? Steckloff? Weiss? Martis? McKinney?
No.
Menser? Morgan? Price? Skaggs? Snyder? Wilson? Lightner? Bolin? Green? Slaw? Beeson? Horton? Fink? Cabot? DeBoer?
Yes.
Kuhn?
Yes.
Shooty? Steele? Madam Chair, you have 12 yeas, 17 nays, no pass. The amendment is not adopted.
Thank you. Our last amendment for Senate Bill 790 is from Representative Lightner. Would you like to speak to your amendment?
For 790, the other one's for 790.
Just kidding.
Okay. Never mind. Sorry about that. So thank you. We'll move now to voting. Representative Skaggs moves to report Senate Bill 790 with recommendation as substitute H1. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report Senate Bill 790 as substitute H1, Chair Whitwer?
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill? Brixey? Hood? Braybeck? Morse? Curry? Steckloff? Weiss? Martis? McKinney?
Yes.
Menser? Morgan? Price? Skaggs? Snyder? Wilson? Lightner? Bolin? Green? Slaw? Beeson? Horton? Fink? Cabot? DeBoer? Kuhn? Shooty? Steele? Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 12 nays, no pass. Senate Bill 790 is reported with recommendation as substitute H1.
Thank you. We also have an amendment on Senate Bill 791. Representative Lightner is offering this amendment. Would you like to speak to your amendment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment is in regards to page 2, line 21, striking out that subparagraph, and the amendment would strike the language that this bill adds that seems to allow the legislature to designate any person as a state employee, including people not currently discussed in this legislation. This could have a broad implication across all sectors and doesn't specify the mechanism with how they would go about the designations. With that, I move my amendment.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to amend, Chair Whitwer?
No.
Representatives O'Neill? Brixey? Hood? Braybeck? Morse? Curry? Steckloff? Weiss? Martis? McKinney?
No.
Menser? Morgan? Price? Skaggs? Snyder? Wilson? Lightner? Bolin? Green? Slaw? Beeson? Horton? Fink? Cabot? DeBoer? Kuhn? Shooty? Steele? Madam Chair, you have 12 yeas, 17 nays, no pass. The amendment is not adopted.
Thank you. That's it for amendments. Representative Puri moves to report Senate Bill 791 with recommendation as substitute H1. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Whitwer?
Yes.
Representatives O'Neill? Brixey? Hood? Braybeck? Morse? Curry? Steckloff? Weiss? Martis? McKinney?
Yes.
Menser? Morgan? Price? Skaggs? Snyder? Wilson? Lightner? Bolin? Green? Slaw? Beeson? Horton? Fink? Cabot? DeBoer? Kuhn? Shooty? Steele? Madam Chair, you have 17 yeas, 12 nays, no pass. Senate Bill 791 is reported with recommendation as substitute H1.
Thank you. That's going to do it for today's agenda. I appreciate everyone's patience today in getting through all these bills. Seeing no further business, the House Appropriations Committee stands adjourned.